Right off the bat, I want to be clear. I enjoy The Last of Us Season 2. I enjoy the show. There's a long list of things that I could do and talk about that I am happy with when it comes to the show. I did a quick rapid reaction with my wife. We enjoyed it. You heard her thoughts, her very quick thoughts, very brief thoughts. She enjoys it. She's never played the game in her life. I am smart enough and mature enough to separate the experience I had while playing the game and the experience I'm currently having while watching the show. That being said, I did not like the pace. That is the first thing that I did not enjoy. We had 7 episodes in this season. The first season had 9. I am upset that we lost out on 2 potential episodes. I think that there's action that existed in the game that they could have found a way to put into the show. Again, I know that it's an adaptation, and I like the fact that we got to see the clickers attack the city of Jackson. That was really, really cool. I like the chase scene when they chased after Nora. That is something that came straight from the game, that entire interaction. But there's a lot of action with the WLF that Ellie has in the game that she does not have in the show. And I think it would have been valuable to see some of that stuff. And we're going to get into why they probably cut a lot of that stuff in a second, because a lot of this is about Ellie. Aside from that, the Rat King sequence, I wanted to see that play out on the show, because a lot of the times with these big production shows, they can take things that we experience in the game and they can really make these things into something brand new for the screen. I wanted to see what kind of monstrosity could they cook up for the Rat King, and they didn't do it. I felt slightly let down. But getting back to Ellie and the cuts that they made to the action specifically against the WLF, a lot of my dislike of the show, the major complaint that I have, my wife feels it as well, Ellie is so much more unlikable in season 2 as opposed to what she was in season 1. Understand me well, my biggest problem is not with the casting of Bella Ramsey. I think she's doing fine given the direction that the directors and the creators of this are trying to go. I know that Neil Druckmann, who created the games, is also present and active during the creative process of the show, which leads me to say my biggest thought is that I think that they think they're making Ellie more human. In the game, she's a bit more robotic, a whole lot more stoic. The lines of dialogue that exist in the show didn't exist in the game because there are moments where they don't use words to convey emotions. They just let the moment be. And it's powerful to those people who played the games. Now those moments are filled with words and people don't like the delivery of those words. But when you have the creator who did the game on set, he's trying something different. He's making this character more human. I believe he believes that. But as an audience, it's not coming across as more human. It's coming across as immature and annoying. In the game, Ellie is a badass, a seasoned badass who knows that she is out for revenge. In the show, Ellie is not a seasoned badass, and she comes across as a child throwing a tantrum all the time. Speaking specifically to the Bella Ramsey part of it, people were groaning when she was cast in season 1, and then you saw the grumblings come again in season 2 as if she would be recast. But again, I think that their issue in season 2 is not necessarily Bella Ramsey, it's the changes that they made to Ellie to kind of make her more like a normal young woman, when in truth, the games didn't depict the woman with that level of maturity. The Ellie that we experienced in the game was much more mature, and I can point to a few instances where things were changed. The porch scene. So in my opinion, I think the porch scene was a fine adaptation of that scene. We have a different version of Ellie and Joel, and we are seeing things play out differently. But if you remember playing the games, Ellie in that scene came across as very, very mature, at peace for the most part with what Joel had done at the hospital. This wasn't her first moment of getting a confirmation of what Joel had done in that hospital. On the show, it's different, and I understand it. It was a very understandable moment, even though it didn't paint Ellie in a favorable light with people who had played the games and saw this interaction previously. But I understand it because this is her first time knowing, and I do feel like she was a bit more mature there in a sense, because she did say, yes, I'm going to struggle to forgive you for this, but I'm gonna try. Same lineups from the game, but again, coming across as a little bit more reasonable when a person is first hearing this information confirmed for the first time. Whereas in the game, she had already known about the situation and they were just kind of rehashing it in that moment. Let's talk specifically about the finale. In that finale, when Jesse and Ellie burst through the doors and Jesse gets shot in the face, exactly how it happens in the game. But the departure is a huge departure, and again, it speaks to the biggest changes in Ellie's character. In the game, Tommy was on the ground at gunpoint, and when Ellie was pleading in the game, she wasn't pleading for her own life. She was pleading for the life of Tommy. Like, she knew that she had made decisions and there were consequences to her actions, and she was way more willing to accept those consequences if it was her dealing with those consequences, and she pled for the life of someone else. In the show, Abby's pointing the gun at Ellie and Ellie has her hands up screaming no, 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 and it just comes across as a child not wanting to accept the consequences of their actions, the same way that she was depicted several other times throughout the season. In the games, Ellie was brave in the face of danger, and I don't feel like we've seen Bella Ramsey's depiction of Ellie be brave in the face of danger. She seems like a novice. She, even Dina had a line in the show where like, you run in shooting all the time. Not really smart, not really well planned out. In the games, Ellie comes across as a person who always does the right thing because she's being controlled by a player in these action scenes. But in the show, there's no controller, and they're giving you what they think is a more realistic take, more human take on what a girl her age would do in a given situation. And it just makes Ellie come across as weak and immature and annoying. Again, if you listen to the little 5-minute video I did, it's not really even a video, it's just an audio conversation of me and my wife talking. My wife hit the nail on the head. She said Ellie's doing too much, the overreactions, the emotional responses to all the different situations instead of being level-headed and making better decisions. So that's clear to her, as well as she made note that Ellie is slowly turning into everything she disliked about Joel. I kind of added into that everything she dislikes about Abby. She's not seeing her path, and her path is taking her down the direct path of the person that she is stalking and chasing after and pursuing. But I do plan to stick with the show because I do believe the good outweighs the bad, and when it comes to adapting anything, is going to be slightly different from what the original was. And so I can look at this show and say, yeah, it's not as good as what the games were. Yes, the depiction of Ellie is very different from the depiction of Ellie in the games, but it is still a high quality show. It is still a very engaging show, and I'm still locked in hoping to see Ellie fully reformed in season 4. That's right, season 4, because season 3 is probably going to be all the Abby story from the game. That's going to be another thing that I think game fans may have complaints about, but I think people who are fans of the show are going to see it and understand what the creators originally intended. Something that I feel like game players really missed, a point that went over a lot of people's heads, something that my wife and me talked about, just the idea that you're becoming what you hate, and neither one of you are truly right in this situation. I think that's going to become clear to audience members by the time we get to the end of season 3 going into season 4, if they break it up that way and do things in that path. I think that's the best path to get the most out of the show and tell the story at a decent pace, giving us at least 6 to 8 episodes each season and really telling the story the same way it was told in the games, not cutting a whole bunch of action, kind of like they did with this season. I feel like a lot of good stuff was cut here, a lot of cool moments that I think back to that were not revisited, and I would have liked to see some of those. But those are my dislikes. Again, I don't want to go through the likes because there's so much that I can talk about. Character design, the idea that when they did make adaptions, it was really, really cool. All the stuff with Eugene, super cool. Could talk about it for a very long time because it adds so many layers to Joel's character and who he is, and A lot of good things you could say about the show, but I chose to do the dislikes this time around. Let me know if you have any likes or dislikes in the comment section. And that's all I have for this one, y'all. Enjoy yourself, guard your heart, and go watch something good.